Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am finally done with the book, The Pianist, and I gotta say, I love it. I'm gonna rate this book a 10 out of 10. Now, this is my second reread of this book in particular. I got this book back in January, I want to say, from our state library book fair. So it's really worn down. Well, not worn down, but you can see what I mean. It's bent and whatnot. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So if you guys don't know, Spillman is a very famous pianist that lived in Warsaw, and he survived World War II. I have watched the movie more than enough times, and this is my second reread of this book, and I have to say, I will just start by saying this. Growing up, I was fascinated by World War II. I loved the history of World War II. I was always very intrigued by World War II, not because of, how to put it, not because of what happened, but just because of how much history there is during World War II. Because growing up, when I first learned about World War II, I learned about when I was in second grade. Nobody taught me. Nobody educated me on World War II or prompted me to learn about World War II. I was just reading a book in second grade, and one of the names that I was reading, or that popped up, was the name Hitler. And I didn't know if it was a name. I did not know what it meant. So I went to go ask my librarian, and I asked her, what does this word mean? And she looked at me. She was very concerned on why a second grader was reading a chapter book based on World War II. But here's the thing. I was an advanced reader in second grade, so I was very naughty. In my school days, I would color and draw in the picture books that I would check out. So I was banned from checking out any more books. But long story short, when she found out I was reading about World War II, she called my father and basically gave him the heads up saying, hey, your daughter's very interested in World War II. She's asking a lot of questions. We don't really have the resource to explain it to her, nor do we think it's age appropriate for her to learn about this in second grade. But since you're the parent, you go ahead and you can tell her what you want, teach her what you want. So go ahead. My dad, let's just say, English definitely wasn't his first language. It was his second language. So that day, he would pick me up from school. We went down to our state library, and he would check out books and movies based on World War II. Now, in those days, parents, I guess, were very like, oh, here's a movie, go ahead and watch it. I'm not going to watch it with you. There were some parents during those days that they're like, okay, let me watch it with you so that way you can ask some questions, get more involved. He wasn't that parent. He was just like, here's a movie, watch it. There were a lot of things in those movies that I probably shouldn't be watching. And ever since that day, it was just more like, I was asked by one of my coworkers that I used to work with. I was telling her this story, and she asked me, what were you feeling? What were your emotions during those times when you were watching those movies and reading about that? And I told her very honestly, as a second grader, my emotions didn't come to me because one, I did not understand what was happening. Two, nobody really explained to me what was happening. And three, it was just more of like, to me, and this is going to sound wrong, but again, you got to understand this came from a second grader. To me, I thought it wasn't real. Nobody explained to me that it was real. And it wasn't until further down the road when we were learning about Anne Frank, and that's when I realized, oh my goodness, everything that I have seen and read is real. So ever since I learned about Anne Frank, I would always go back to World War II. I would always go back to learning more and more about it. One, because it opened that door of curiosity for me, but it also opened another world for me to realize that this is real. This isn't fiction. It's real life. So ever since then, I would have the questions. I still have those questions, like, why did this happen? How many actually survived, and were there any good Germans out there? And I guess you could say, again, this is just my opinion, but also of how much I have learned. There are some good Germans during World War II that actually did try and protect the Jews and the ones that were feeling like there was no hope for them. And this book honestly has opened more doors for me. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. First of all, I love that the cover, it just shows you little bits of detail. You can see that he has the Star of David, and you can see that it's a guy playing the piano. And you can also see the date of the man who survived from 1939 to 1945. And it's just Spillman. I guess I'll just jump right into it. But another thing I like about this book is that you have pictures of him. This is his identity card in 1942. You can see he was very handsome. He was just a very happy, handsome man. And then, you have the table of contents. His son actually wrote the introduction on page 7. And his son, basically, his dad never told him about his time during World War II. It was just not something that he liked to talk about. And this is Spillman with his 2 sisters and big brother. I think that's his big brother right there. I think. I don't know. I could be wrong, but these are just his siblings. Yeah, when the war started, it didn't start off right away. Like, even he said too, like, in this chapter, the hour of the children and the mad. Like, in this one, it was just more of like, there are like some things that aren't, well, actually, no, this one is during World War II, but in this chapter, this was like at the somewhat in the beginning of the war or somewhere in the middle. But in this chapter, and this is also in the movie, where Spillman is walking down I think it's the ghetto, and there's these children that are smuggling goods to the other side to give to people in need. And that's something that also something that really intrigued me, is that what were the kids doing, you know? So when I read the part about the kids that are smuggling goods, I'm like, oh my God, these kids, they're young, in this age where kids should be running around playing soccer, or running around playing out with their friends, climbing trees, jumping in rivers, creating chaos, going to the candy stores. They're trying to survive. And it's just, it's very heartbreaking to think that those children that struggled to get food, to not just for themselves but for their loved ones too, they had to go through great lengths to just get it. And it's like, wow. If you watched the movie, if you read the book, in this first chapter, he mentions that as he's walking, a little boy is crawling through the opening of one of the walls, and before he even realized what was happening, he ran over to him, tried to pull him through the hole because he got stuck. Officers came over and started just... So I guess the best way to explain it, so pretend this is the wall right here. The boy's leg, I'm going to just flip it this way. The boy's leg, so where my thumb is, right there where my fingernail meets the line, that's where like most of his body, like his head was popping out with his arms. But then where you see the rest of my skin and the rest of my nail connected to that, that's where the officers came in and started beating the crap out of the boy. And the boy didn't make it. And it's just like, wow. But then as I'm reading, there are some names in here that did pop out. Like, for example, this name, Janusz Korczak. I don't know how to say his name, but I hope I'm not butchering too much. But this guy, was a famous writer. He wrote children's book. He adored children. He loved them. He funded orphanage. He funded orphanages for the kids that are orphans, and he basically devoted his life to them. And what's even more crazy is that this guy was German. This guy was German, and he was doing a lot of nice things for orphan children. And what's even more sad about learning about that guy is that him and his kids were sent to the first train. They were sent on that very first train to Auschwitz, and they were the very first ones to go into the gas chambers. Now, what's interesting and sad about that is that originally it was just supposed to be the kids. But Kuzak said, no, I'm going with them. These are my kids. This is my family. I'll be going with them. And Spillman even says too, like, his thoughts were that, basically what he says, let me see if I can find it. There's another name in here, but basically what he says is that he hopes that when they got onto that train, they got to Auschwitz, is that he was telling them great stories about where they were going, what they were going to go see. And he even said too that this man, Spillman thought, and this is just him, like, what were the moments going into the gas chamber with Kuzak and his kids? What did he say to them? And I guarantee he gave them words of encouragement, saying that we will be together into the next life, or something like that. But yeah, when I read that, I had to educate myself more into it, and basically, like, just try to figure out what else this man did. Like, what else did he do? And just go down that rabbit hole of how great of a person this man was. And yeah, it's just, to me, it's just heartbreaking. But let's go ahead and go into into another character, or sorry, I shouldn't say character. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Let's go into another man of history, Dr. Weigel. Um, he became the most popular figure after Hitler, good beside evil, so to speak. So people said that the Germans had arrested a doctor in Lemberg, but thank God had not murdered him, and indeed they almost recognized him as an honorary German. It was said they had offered him a fine laboratory and a wonderful villa with an equally wonderful car after placing him under the wonderful supervision of the Gestapo to make sure he did not run away, rather than making as much vaccine as possible for the louse-infested German army in the east. Of course, said the story, Dr. Weigel had refused the villa and the car. So there were other people that were given, I guess you could say, not what's the word? It's not animosity. It's basically they're given, basically they're told, if you do this for us, we will give you the best thing and you will never have to see your way into the gas chambers. And as I was reading this book, a lot of people have refused to take the safe way, and they would much rather just say, no, if I'm going to die, I would die this way. And to me, it's just like, it's like, okay, like, wow. There are some other people in this book, but let's just go ahead and dive into it. So the war started in 1939, and it was just like, I guess you could say it was just like little things here and there. Just the war starting and just the mood of everybody just going through the emotions of what was happening. There are some things in this book that I truly enjoy. Like, for example, his dad, Spillman's dad, is very optimistic. There's one line in here. Let's see if I can find it. I did highlight. I never did this, but every time I read nonfiction books, I'll always highlight something that I've heard in the movie that was changed, that wasn't the right person that said it. Like, for example, if you've seen the movie, this is in the movie, this specific line. After all, he had his papers in his pocket. If he had been dead, they would have known where to take him. In the movie, it was, I think, his brother that said it, but in the book, it was actually their maid. That's what's crazy. He had a maid during this time, and I'm like, wow. And yeah, but just going into it, in the movie when his father bows to the Germans, it was basically misinformed. So yes, it is true. The Jews did need to bow to the German soldiers that crossed their path, or I think it was like any German, but everybody was afraid. Like, everybody, when they bowed, they were afraid. But his dad, on the other hand, basically, and Spillman says this a lot, but his dad, whenever he's seen a German, he would bow and he would have a casual conversation with them. And it didn't matter who it was or who it wasn't. It was just he would bow to the Germans whenever he's seen them and just talk to them like they were old friends. And the Germans would just, they would just be like, yeah, that's cool. Or, yeah, hi. And nothing ever happened to him. So Yeah, another thing is too is that when in the movie when they were talking about hiding the watch in plain sight and the money in plain sight, they actually put the money into into the father's violin, but in the book, the watch was hidden under the cupboard, the chain beneath the fingerboard of father's violin, and the money was jammed into the window frame. They changed that in the movie. So I'm very concerned on I'm not concerned, but I'm very confused on why they changed that, because if it's written exactly how it was done, it should have been kept like that in the movie, but it's fine at this point. Um yeah, even like when we get to the part of where they're sent to get into um I think it was this one. Maybe not. I'm trying to find it. Um there's one. There's like a lot of scenes in the book that was in the movie, and a lot of it has been changed, but this one definitely made me cry. It's A Chance of Life. Um this is where I think he can't remember. Oh, this is where after was this after his parents were taken? Yeah, this is after his parents were taken. So um in this chapter you see it in the movie, and this chapter honestly made me cry, because this next one is just him going surviving the war as it comes. And that's one thing, this is one thing that I love, is that you get to read about his survival and about his life during World War II. And, you know, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Like, not everybody likes learning, not learning, but not everybody likes to think about World War II. But to me, honestly, I love learning more about it because, like I said, growing up, it's always been like with me. Um, so to me, I can read about every person during World War II. I can reread, like I said, this is my second reread of this book. So I can definitely stomach it and definitely reread it. And it's not, like I said, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody will enjoy it. But I I love reading about World War II. I love learning more about World War II. Um, Currently, I have gotten another book that I've been wanting to read. But the reason why um I'm going to the very back is because this guy, his name is Captain Wilm Hosenfeld. This is the guy. This guy right here. This guy is a German soldier. What's interesting about this German soldier is that he have saved a lot of Jews from terrible fates. And he has written all their names in his notebooks. He has thought about them. When he met Spellman, and he gave Spellman his German coat to keep him warm. Spillman tells him, "My name, if you ever need help in any way, shape, or form, come find me. I work for the Polish radio. I am Spellman, and I'm a pianist." And he basic after the war, he gets captured. He's sent to a prisoner of war camp. This guy was beaten to death. Well, not beaten to death, but he was beaten to a point where he became like a vegetable, and he died a couple of years later, or a couple months later, after his wife got him from the prisoner of war camps. But what I like about this is that Spillman never got his name. He never asked his name. And the reason why he never asked for his name is because he didn't. If he was to get captured by a German and they would ask him, "Who gave you the jacket?" he would basically hold his tongue and let them beat the crap out of him. And he would hold on, like, he knew that since I do not know his name, they will never get that information from me, because I would die an honest man. And to me, I'm like, wow. Like, even though you don't know this guy's name, and even though you don't see each other as friends, it does do something. And after the war, Spillman did whatever he could to try and find him. He never found him until one of his friends found him, found his wife, talked to the wife, and she mentioned Spillman, and Spillman was able to put some of his diary entries into his book. And to me, it's just beautiful. And you get another picture of Spillman in the studio of Polish radio. Sorry, not Polish, Polish. But yeah, overall, like I said, World War II is not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody can stomach it. Not everybody is willing to read about World War II unless they are historians. To me, I'm not a historian. I just love learning about history. I've always been wanting to learn about history, the good and the bad. So honestly, I want to learn more about World War II. And so, with that being said, if you like autobiographies, and if you like learning, or if you are interested in knowing more about World War II, I would recommend The Pianist. I have finished this book in 2 days, I want to say, maybe 3, but this book is a really good book. You will need a lot of tissues, and you will also need a buddy to comfort you, but I would rate this book a 10 out of 10. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed my YouTube video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.